So I looked after cattle for almost 2 years, but I had that so strong conviction that one day I'll do something in related to business, and I just loved construction.
With Mufudzi wemombe, uchatora mukombe. What does that song remind you of, or what comes into your mind when you hear that song?
Blaming others will never solve your problem, and life on its own is unfair. There's no way you would want to blame either the world or parents. You have to learn to stand on your own. And from that day, when I lost both parents in somewhere around 1996, everything changed. Like the scope of my life, totally. That's when I felt the pain of not having parents or not having any elder person to guide and take care of you if you don't have parents. How I learned the aspect of using money. Wherever I get money, I don't spend all of it on one thing. I was saving. So,
do you believe in following your passion, or you say, no?
Fighting your passion is like fighting yourself. So you cannot contradict yourself. Purpose is driven from passion. The things that you want to do more often, that's your purpose. What you like is what you do. The advantage of doing what you like, whether there's money or there's no money, you still have the energy to pursue it. Yes, but if you do things for money, then without money you quit. The world owes you nothing. Understand what you want, choose your path, avoid changing directions along the way. At least if you choose something that you believe works, better give it all before you quit. Because quitting is not an option.
Thank you so much for wisdoming and purposing with us. ImeTheFinest here. So joining me on this platform is Mr. Banabas Marambire, the founder of Barmlo Investments, entrepreneur and author. Mr. Banabas Marambire, thank you so much for coming. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited that this is our first time hosting a millionaire on the show. I've hosted, I think, 5 rich people, but this one, I'm super excited for it, man. So first thing first, I want to start with Mufudzi wemombe, uchatora mukombe. What does that song remind you of, or what comes into your mind when you hear that song?
No, actually, the song, it's a title song.
Can you come close to your mic?
The song is a title song of a book that I wrote. So it's everything centered on how I grew up in my background. So the song is a true story of my upbringing. It's all about the song. And then the song speaks what I wrote in the book.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the book and how you grow up. So I've noticed that many people will say Dr. Banabas Marambire is an entrepreneur, motivational speaker, because your story motivates us. You give us hope that you can do it. So we want to understand, except the business side of you, except the Mr. Banabas Marambire that we already know in public. Deep down, who is Mr. Banabas Marambire?
Banabas Marambire, it's a guy who grew up in quite a very sad situation, right? And Banabas Marambire is a guy who is so resilient, who went through all troubles of life, and so I describe myself as a hard worker, as a fighter, as an entrepreneur, as a philanthropist, because through the gender that is so I think in summary that's what I can say.
Here we believe that our childhood shaped the person that you become when we are older. So what is your earliest childhood memory that you think has shaped the person that you are today?
The whole entire experience of my childhood, I think it shaped my
just speak any memory that you think, no, this one.
Unfortunately, it's events.
Wow.
I would not pick one because it's a collective event of events which happened as I was growing up. Yes.
Well, let's talk about those events. What were they?
Okay, I think the events to start with, where I can vividly remember, which I can say turned everything around. It's when I was about 13 years when I lost my parents. Honestly, from that day when I lost both parents in somewhere around 1996, everything changed. Like the scope of my life, yakavyatongo-chinja totally. Because that's when I started experiencing something new that I never knew it existed. The things like the deep, that deep poverty which you might think was just a team. Maybe sometimes zvinhu zvinoratidza pamawebsites evamwe vanotaura nezvepoverty. So that's when I experienced that, and it was series and series and series and series of events which I believe turned out to create the man whom I am today.
Or losing parents at a tender age is very painful. Sometimes it's very traumatic. How did you manage to heal from those traumas?
It's a matter of just accepting that it's in this you just have to accept it. That's how it is. Then maybe through talking. Unfortunately, in my case, I never had an opportunity to discuss much about what I went through until in 2020 when I wrote the book. I think that was my first time to. That was my first time to open up and maybe share those experiences in public. One or the other, I think it was also a healing process for me, because that's when I now accept and say, okay, this is what happened, this is what I went through. But during the course of the time, I mean, from 13 years maybe to up to 19 years, because I started working down in 19 years. Pakati pesapa, I was just seeing events and events, and I was trying to work around for survival. So thank God to any situation area, then I figure out how can I go about it without mentorship or guidance. So yeah, it was quite a bit a challenge.
Yes. Now that you are older, do you have moments where those traumatic experiences knock at your doorstep, and how do you react if that is the case?
I would not say there are times where those struggles knock at me in a negative way. Because now what is happening, I learned that everything that I fought for back then as a kid, it taught me skills of how to fight for the things that I want even right now, like the courage to tackle. When we talk of business, I think all my upbringing was more like a training for the person I am today. Because running a company, there's always one challenge after another. So sometimes when I struggle, try to balance, I relate with how I fought some situations back then, and it is now starting to make sense. Because I look at times like when pandakapedza chikoro ndakamboita zvekutengesa pamusika, saka I was selling groundnuts, nzungunyoro dzakakangwa dzedzi, and when I finished my school I was quite very short. Saka waiti ukasvika paipa uchitengesa unenge wakasenga dzichiri nzunga rakashama pamusoro, and then vakomana vepamagrosari mamonya uye vachida kuzama kunokora kuti vacho. So in my case that was not happening, because I would fight for my things. And we may take it as a small thing, but that courage kita stood up and safeguard your small stock yenzungu kana kuti yechibage. Now sometimes we come across such situations where people are trying to take advantage of your business. So that fight instinct which grew back then, I think still kick in and
Okay, let's talk about your background. What was it like after losing your parents at a tender age? What happened next? Take us through your where did you go to high school? What was the situation like? And what was your job, your first job?
Okay, it's series and series that happened soon after we lost our parents. It's supposed to some family we about 10.
Oh.
Then, fortunately enough, other siblings were taken, my relatives. For some reasons that I don't know, I'm the only guy who was left at all. Like Mushab, at that tender age. So I started to fend for myself at a very tender age. By that age of 13 years, and after I was right in the chikafika pamba ndinochera mvura yekubikisa maplates asupa, like just taking care of.
You was left alone.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
alone.
continue.
And then the issue of going to school, and then even issue yekutyika urara usiku. Imagine siwa pamusha nedzimba dzakati one day and you're just alone and you have to spend the whole night alone, wake up, kuita mabasa kuenda kuchikoro, wodzoka pamba. So that was some of the toughest things. And then
So let me cut you there. Did you ask your relatives that what were their reasons why they left you alone?
you mean like now?
Back
then, there was no one to ask because the way how it happened, I didn't know that I was already left alone because you know what happened after between our parents, our mother is the one who passed on first, and then immediately after she departed, the smallest children, vanina vangu vakatorana namaiguru, vamwe vakatorana namaiguru, vamwe vakatorwa nabamname, vamwe vakatorwa navatete. Then later, because that was in May, same year in October, mudhara chibva vazoita pasoni as well. And then vanga vati kure vaumbikwa ndiri vakangobvawo so naenda unotsvaka mabasa. Saka it didn't actually happen in a single day kuti taakutora vanhu. So these are the events that were happening. Unfortunately, I didn't find myself remaining alone, and at some point I didn't pick it that I'm left here. It's a time I was also thinking that maybe one of the relatives will come and take me or shades or quartet. But as time goes on, I'm still going to the same school. I was Form 1, Form 2, Form 3 until I finished Form 4. So yeah, those are the events that happened. And why I was left.
But now, what's your relationship with your relatives?
No, we are so good.
I don't bitter.
Not at all.
But have you ever been in that situation where you was like, no, I want to prove them. They left me alone. I want to achieve this so that they will see me.
Unfortunately, I never took that route. Because what happened now, I was trying to explain to him. After you lose parents, panika simba empathy kanaitika nevanhu vomunharaunda zvokunzi vana urombo kuti masiwa musina vabereki, this and that. Saka unombotanga uchinjoya that pardon, do you want to correct something?
No, continue.
Okay, so unombotanga uchinzirwa tsitsi and then you get that comfort. Vanhu vemuraini vachiti kana chero kanzi hauna chekudya unombokupa vombodi. Saka what happened now ipapo ndezvekuti at some point ndakabva ndaita feel comfort to that, and I was now relying to handouts until at certain time when now vanhu vakuona kuti enough it's enough. Of course vanhu vanochema but warambo uchichema, you don't mourn forever. So there's a time yokuti waizoona kuti maybe when watoenda kuma next day wakushandiswa basa riri so heavy, it's like you are working for food, and sometimes you go try to use the same trick kuti ndipo chikafu ona kuti hapasina chiri kubuda. So that's the only point where, you know, I remember one incident yakaita turn around. Kaneta about 3 days in Snatchka, food. So funny, let me not give too much details because people will know who I'm referring to. So apana neighbor, ndakaenda kumba kweneighbor. Ndakaona vakaisa sadza rinofanira kunge rasara manheru pamapiwa epachoto pepe. So I then asked for that food. Kwavari maybe vanaizokutika kuti zvinorevei kwandiri. I didn't care kuti sadza rine usaviri, but because raragarisa riri pamapiwa unozotanga raomera takachingwa making. So for me it was enough because it was almost 3 days ndisina chandacho. So musi what happened, I remember it was almost around December. Tatatovara chikoro.
How old were you?
Form 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was because mudhara akasvika muna October. So tiri October, November. Early December. So mashoko andakaudzwa ipapo aiva magaramo just because of that. Saka ndakabva ndazofunga kuti if I need to rely on this lifestyle, I won't survive. So I think that's the day where I turn around almost everything, and that turn around the whole situation of my life to this day. Because I remember ndakabva ipapo ndakaenda kumba ndikafila kuti of course that's when I felt the pain of not having parents or not having any elder person to guide and take care of you if you don't have parents. Saka musi uchacho ndakabva ndati nini maybe it's high time I should wait. because zvinhu zvava kuenda ndaukwanisa kuti ndikaenda ndichikumbira ndichapiwi sezvandaitwa pakutanga, because in October, because mudhara akashayanda kwakuna na 18 somewhere around 18 October somewhere. Saka in the month of October it was okay. November but vanhu vanenge voenda vachitaka kujairira kuti chitongoona kuti woita sei. So in December ndo bandakazoti nini, after that incident ngati no, imagine uri kunzwa nzara and we have nothing to eat. Ndakaenda kune another farmer aisakurisa in the line reach back because waisakura according to my lines. I think line yekusakura yaita almost about 50 cents somewhere around there. I went there and worked left, right, center. I still remember patakazonosvika kunana towards Christmas ndanga ndaone a significant figure yaitori, I think almost $12. So with that money it was enough for the first time in my entire life. I bought a chicken for Christmas.
Wow.
And the whole entire chicken was to myself. I eat the whole chicken alone. So I think that's what I can say as a kid, as a 30-year-old boy, was my greatest first achievement. Because imagine a point of asking for food from people, can I even start that? It's now serving. And then now for the first time, you have the whole entire chicken to yourself. So it's something that I really, those are the events that I remember. So then what happened, just to cut the story short, Maria ndakasakurira and I spent some on Christmas. I also bought myself some clothes. And then around fani vana vamwe. And then Maria kasara ndakabva patakanovhura chitanga form 2. Ndaiuda masweets. Chinotengeswa chikoro. Choda masweets chinotengeswa chikoro. So ndakabva ndatongozogara, and since that day I don't remember kuti ndakambozotana mari to this day. Saka yakabva yaita a system andakabva ndazvidzidzisa kuti no, I have to work, I have to do something to get money, and then I use that money wisely. Isati yapira ndoramba nchitsvaka.
Well, during that period, have you ever thought that you would become this successful?
Funny enough, it was more like a prophecy. Pandainotengesa nzungu nechibage, and then nemadzimai emuraini, I think that was about 4 or 5. Saka taenda tese, and these ladies are still there as we speak. Sometimes they went home and with me, and I would tell them stories that, you know, what I know for sure is one day I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to employ a lot of people. I'm going to buy so many vehicles. I'm going to be all over in the newspapers, in the TVs. So these ladies, they would encourage me, say, yes, it's very possible. Keep on. But to them, they would say, keep on selling, save money, go to school. So later, maybe in our conversation, I'll tell you more about how I ended up in Botswana. So Botswana, and then some colleagues, I would tell them the same story. You know, I had that so strong conviction that one day I'll do something related to business, and I just loved construction. To an extent, these guys vakanga vasingachadi kunzwa nyaya dzamudadzi vako vapo ayompani uroti hauna kana bhutsu, hauna kana anything, kana hembe dzekupfeka dzonotostruggle ende kuti azoti uchazoita kama.
We are going to talk about that experience. Now, let's talk about your first job. What was it, and what are the major lessons that job has taught you?
My first job, I was hired as a head, but that is after some series of selling when I was still in Zimbabwe. And then
so your first job was in Zambia?
No, in Botswana.
Oh, Botswana, okay.
Yes. So what happened is...
So first, just take us through your journey. Was it a well-thought journey, or it was a blind journey going to Botswana?
No, actually now what happened is I was selling. Pandakazopedza chikoro muna 1999. Ndakaenderera mberi kutengesa. Ndo pacho panonyazotaura ndo panana kutengesa zviri full time, ndakaenda kusika nchiwoda mumairrigation chinotengesa. And imagine patakanyora form 4 sekuti isusu kurusanga nemacolleagues ako mapeers akwadza nawo vachienda kumacollege, vamwe vachienda kumahigh school, vakatakura matrunk, kudhara kutakura matrangika esimbi so eblack aya, iwo vakatakura dhishi renzungu uchienda kumarket, you know. But I was never shy, even though zvairwadza, but handina kumbonyara kuti ndikuenda. Saka taitomhoresana temuchienda vamwe they could mock me kuti aisikoyo sausienda kuchikoro, even though I had 5 subjects. Ndakangofera English. Ndakafera English nechi. Ndakafera English but ndine 5 subjects. which means if there was money,
So which means you hustle the money to register for the exams?
Yes, we were paying part of the money, and part of the money was paid by social.
Oh, okay. You continue.
So now, which means that was the process. And soon after February, March, my agriculture products irrigation akabva pantime anombopera sanaona ndisina kuiche kunotengesa. That's when I said to myself, what should I do? Pane vanambotengese ma second hand clothes. Vanobva ndakazoti what should I do? And I was talking to another guy watakadzidza tese tati ngatinde kuBotswana or kuSouth Africa. Ndomazuva ekutanga vanachitanga kubuda zvokunyanya chaizvo. So then I researched kuti ndiani wandingaenda naye, because that guy akabva azoita slow pakuplan. Saka ndakatora some of the money akasara pandaitengesa ndobva ndanotora passport. And then
we want to take a quick short break, then we'll be right back and you will continue from there. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back. This is Wisdom and Purpose with Ime. Now we are in conversation with Mr. Banabas Marambire. I don't know why I'm tempted to say the other title. All right, now you managed to secure the passport. Take us from there.
Then I looked for some people and Botswana. You know, one thing that with your permission, of course, that I think we should always relate. If I tell this story, Mele's story, a lot of people miss the concept or the strong message to take home from my story, which I always relate mostly to aspiring people who are working on business, to even startups, young entrepreneurs. Because this story, most of them, when I narrate it, I want it to relate with so many situations where you find our current youth saying, I cannot start a business, I cannot start something because I should be funded by someone, I should start with a complete, well-finished office. So I would love to combine the story with a mindset of someone who wants to start something. Because, you know, as we started Tichitsanangora Pepe, of course, if you want to listen it as a general story, it's a sad story. But if you want to listen it from a point of view of someone who also wants to start something, there are so many lessons to take from that story. Because right now someone is seated at home. And Dinamari Tanga business. Some person is using iPhone 15. Someone garage and sundown Tanga business. We're talking of someone who is well educated and a certain degree or a certain level of education. And someone, there are a lot of complaints or what can I say, excuses of which people can say, no, and Tanga business because of that. So if you can just go back where we started our conversation and what the challenges I was facing and how I was struggling to make sure that I survive, you could learn a lot of lessons from there. But this guy was an orphan, and at some point relied from well wishers from the village. And then when it was not working, I didn't sit and complain and cry to say, Apana Batira. I took a decision, say, okay, now let me go to the farms and start monosakuri mari. A lot of us right now, or a lot of young people, any job really below the standard education, which I would want to challenge, because we have a lot of guys who have got potential, but somehow I've honored that template or anyway to cope with it. Right? How did they manage to get out of the situation? So I would love, with your permission, of course, if we can discuss and make that kind of comparisons as we go.
Yeah, sure.
Because I always say my life is a living testimony. The song I told you about, which is Mufudzi wemombe, it's actually an inspiration song that I funded so that it can teach people. The book that I wrote is more like a life manual. You know, when you read it, it's got details how I move from point A to point B when it comes to business, to my business life. It never happened overnight.
Okay, now let's talk about how you started your business. What was it like? What are the challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Okay. So maybe proceeding or progressively the issue that we're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, moving
Because
to Botswana.
yes, because everything that you see now in my business, that was the foundation. What we are talking about, how I grew up, how I started even selling. I know very well to a blind eye or someone not concentrating, I say, oh, this guy went through all those struggles and not see a lesson to say, okay, in all those struggles, that's when the business was made. Ndo pakabva business. Because all the events that I was sharing, the events that it's, if you can look closely, that is the beginning. That's how the business started. Of course, it was at a small scale. Of course, it was like selling sweets. But you know, if you can take that into consideration, you know, to see that an entrepreneur here it was an entrepreneur in the making. Entrepreneur to be papa, it was a process. Even though I didn't know how I would turn out to be, I was convicted. I was so sure that at some point of time, life is going to be okay. That's why I didn't give up. Look, I could have turned out and joined other kids and started drinking. Then sina mama, kumba yonondibvunza kuti uri kupi. I could have been like any other youth today, started taking drugs. And I was going to be very justified. Taiwa, you should understand inherera navabereki ari kutambura. Akuda kuzorodza chipfungwa dzake. So look, this is the stories that we hear from a lot of people who end up taking drugs. No life yanga inyakuoma. So I wanted a relief. So I think we can balance here to say, okay, we look at you now because we got something tangible that took on. But how was the background that we are sharing about? So as we progress, I'll be very happy to combine the two so that it move on. Teachita comparison. All right, here you were nothing, you have nothing. How do you even started selling sweets? Ndakaenda kunosakurira kuma farms. Mara ndakaona kuma farms andakudya isi. First ndakatenga chicken and ndikadya chicken. Ndikadya chicken yese ndiri one. From starving, from days of days, going days and days without food. But handina kuzokanganwa kuti ndinoda kuzoenderera mberi. Saka in other words, it's the issue of you, how I learned the aspect of using money. Wherever I get money, I don't spend all of it on one thing. I was saving. So, continue the question that you'd asked that Patakazienda Botswana was it coincidental or by mistake? It was a planned journey. But the planned journey, we were told Tunoshanda Pama service station, garage, all those jobs which are a little bit better than Shandaga's on the place around that way. So, you know, ndakaenda kuhama dzangu dzaicrossa border, vachiti tichaenda newe right, toenda neWednesday. Ndosera ndiri prepared paya, wakutoti Wednesday yasvika makusina unonoka kuti chinonzi ano vanhu vakatoenda nezuro. Saka kwaita kutonzvengwa chero zvokuti vanhu vakutokusiya. And that's one of the things that I noticed happen as we are blacks. Hatikwanisi kusimudzirana. I took it a stand to say, I will learn to celebrate other people's success. I will learn to assist whenever I can, regardless of how small it is, as long as I contribute my efforts. Say, okay, this is a young person who is trying to do business, either with mentorship, either with finance, or with resources, or any place. I willingly do that without expecting anything in return. Because I know how it feels, because I went through that. When you are trying to reach out and people are shutting you because you are nothing. You have nothing. So far, I'm one of the people who are so accessible. I don't have limitation. Whether you access me through WhatsApp, I'm not that kind who say who gave you my number. No, when you come and want anything to do, as long as it is something to do with business, I assist. The only one policy that I have is I don't discuss crime. I don't discuss material. A lot of people to come and say, no, we see you are connected, in a connection. Connection to smuggling. I don't participate in discussing crime or anything whatsoever. That is not legit. That is not dignified. So, all these characteristics I'm saying, they were brought up through my experience. I choose to be positive. Even majority of people under such circumstances, they will choose the other way around. They go to drugs. They even start stealing. You know, I went 3 days without food. And I've got that audacity to go and ask salary pamafio. And let us be real here. A 13-year-old boy only 3 days usina kudya. When now go to sneak and take the salary. Ngenda katoba. Because sometimes kuba kuneta.
Or kuba something better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kuba kuneta vanhu. In most cases, especially when I was vamwe it's under pressure. Hakuna chekudya, peer pressure and all that. Wozofila kuti saka ndoita sei kuti ndite fit in. Vanhu vanopedzisira kuita zvisiri. I want to thank God. That's why I always say my life is a living testimony. I could have done anything, but I believe God guided me when there was no parenting to guide me, when there was no any elder to guide me. And then if you listen to this whole story, I'm sure you didn't wonder too. I sometimes also ask myself, but unfortunately, that's how it was, and that's how it happened. Yeah, that's how it happened. So, tazoenda kuBotswana kuya munhu akatozoenda neni munhu kuti I was going to pay for the bus fee. Ndaitomubhadhara bus fee with the idea kuti katasvika ndozonodzorwa mari yako sina tombozodzora saka that was in 2000. In 2000 kwakaitika mvura yecyclone Elini dzakwainayo singaiti nondasirira something. Tisati taenda takanga taodha Bambaira titi tinotengesa mabera kuBotswana. I remember mari yose yanene part of the money ndaodha Bambaira ndadzisamba
mari yeBambaira yangabva kupi?
After closing the business kutengesa chibage nenzo ndikatora passport ndakasara nemari. As I said kuti I learned to always keep something. And since the day randanganyimwa sadza repamapiwa handina umbozochona kuti nditi handina mari. Since pandakatanga kutengesa masweets or since the day randakatanga kunosakurira kuwana mari apa pesa handambozochona. I would make sure that when I use money I remain with something. So ndatenga mbambera dziya kudaro with the intention of taking that because that was around March. I stayed. March, the whole of March. I think 6 April ndo patakazoenda. But mbambera dziya manje dzatanga tatenga dzakutanga kuora. Saka ndakaenda takachera gomba nokudzifimbika kuisa mavhu. Andoti but I didn't work. But anyway, patakaenda ndakatakura some of them. Tikaenda nembambaira. Chinosvika kuya manje kwakunaya. Yakuti saka basa romagaraji randapromisa riripa. Later to find out no team raenda kuBotswana here. Vanoshanda kumaprazi, kuminda, kugobora zvitsiga, kutema minda, like the hard manual job. And here I am, I'm just 18 years. And as I was saying, in class I was the shortest, slim guy. You couldn't believe I was very small.
Because now I was very small. I was like, no. Okay, continue.
So now, people were working as syndicates, like Mobatana Moriti, Mopamaita, Mopamanoita, Bas. Saka Kune was out Agabatani because I was too small. So when I go to Ayu, Rumpana, Azwiti, Bomina, Zokira Kumba, which was got Botswana. So because it was raining continuously, Tim Resara Barata not Agu Zokira Zimbabwe. Then they had no answer to get. So I could come and I don't see a pie in a foreign language. And I'm not even good language and anything. So what was for me, that was the better option. I know it's better than someone. You know, Muswanda see out in the north, someone made a phone 6. Phone 4 young 5 subjects. I know someone. If it was quite a well established homestead in Pamatet, if I think of our home in Zimbabwe, the salary was about 120 pula. But then I think it was plus or minus $12. Yeah. Wakambeta shumbu za dzine dzakazara pachisi. I think it's pashona chidi chokumazvonoti kudumbirwa nehasha. Yeah. Zvazvoti munhu akakuvhunza anything ukada kudaira chete, you cry. Yeah. That's what I felt, and ndaenda kumane mudharawa yacho pabhasikoro rake nchifamba ndakabereka secho. Zvikanobva kutorisa mombe dzaiva maBrahman dzainetsa. No man, I was in the bush alone, mazimombe mazibroman akura singaiti. But I worked. Saka ndinoti pamombe ndoya because I love agriculture. So pamwe ndikasvika ndikaestablish a garden. Tatwa nemuriwo padeni. Ndikavadzidzisa kugadzira dovi vasingazivi dovi rogadzirwa sei. Saka there's a lot of things zvatanda kuvadzisa vanhu kutanga kuchonakirwa nelife tanga chinakiro nelife. So I looked after kettles for almost 2 years, because that was 2000, 2001, 2002. So almost 2 years and some months.
What were the challenges back then muchifudza mombe? Because isusu pataita manomboikupfudza kwataiita isusu ndokongoti maindawo for a holiday mwamanizonzojana riri kwenyu then mutangofudza ndo zvataita. But there were a lot of challenges from bullying, kunyirohwa nevanhu majisa munda, zvakawanda, kurasa mombe and all the stuff. What are the challenges?
Machallenges akanyanya aiva pakurasa mombe, because matonda acho ekubotswana kanga akakurisa. Warasa mombe, kubatwa nechadzimira icho, kurasika musango zvoti wairasika. I remember another day ndakarasika ndichitedza kuona road kudzokera kumba, but ndaisati kana enda samwe kuri haya ndoona kuti dzimba idzo ndakarasa zvoti ndakapera mate mukanwa nenyota, kuti ndaitira kuda kupfira pasi apana chaibuda. And I'm telling you, kuomerwa mati nenyota, wabatwa nechadzimira, unosvika kumba kana kuti kumaseve. Even bullying, I remember another time I was looking after kettles, no banda sangana nemwe team. They are there, those guys, they always talk about that story. Anapumlani, Nana Tom, these guys are in Botswana. Saka kuya vane mbwa dzakawanda pandiri vano vandikomba manje. But you know, as I said, my upbringing was teaching me a certain character in terms of what she. You know, right now tikatora mpana ari mustreet Mararo. Totora kana mwana wangu. Toyasa panzvimbo imwe chete, mwana wangu yani iPhone. Mpano mustreet ani kana Android, kana chimbudzi chacho. If my son is not smart, anodzoka kumba nechimbudzi mpana kana ne Android.
Exactly, sure.
There's a survival screen or this one in every industry. Team street meme, they know how to survive. Right now, I'm too much in the campus, money $1 kana 50 cents, kana asina no. Then chitora mwana kurira kuporodo. Omsi yamtaona anasema date come in.
Yango notodzoka asina chini.
Kana kusasvika kumba. So that's kind of a thing that I learned as I was growing. So team iri parakasvika. Because I was looking at one wakawanda, but I resisted. We ended up being friends up to this day, even on Facebook, because I stayed in Botswana for about 10 years. Sagavan we become so close, they become family. Their granny was a very good lady, and she loved me. I forgot to share and I to Zimbabwe, that was from Botswana, but I went for a burial. So this is the kind of arrangement I got Botswana.
Well, at first, I believe there is a language barrier in terms of being in Simo and Botswana. How did you manage to navigate that?
In a short period of time, nanda ukwasa tora chikalanga, nanda ukwasa kuleveleka, nanda ukwasa tora chitswana.
I worried. Let's talk about your first conversation in Botswana. What was it like? My communicator, which language?
I started using English.
Right.
But now Kalanga, it's more like Shona. So I learned it so quickly, because now I was now staying with the old ladies who doesn't know English. I remember Anagashika and Titangwana Basa, and I was assume since you wasn't known that Igamalako Movan. I didn't know. Okay. I end up with one which Kalanga Zina Lilondia. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So she then went to try to speak. You say name. What's your name? And I was like, wow. So yeah, language for some few weeks it was difficult, but then later I was cruising, speaking fluent Kalanga that you would not know that I'm a foreigner, and then also Botswana. So yeah.
Working in Botswana for 10 years.
Yeah.
What was the turning point when you realized that now I'm doing business, I'm starting this business?
I said I looked after kettles up to 2003. So what happened now? Remember when I started working in Botswana, I was very young. Even the appearance, there's no one who could have hired me for another job. My interest was in construction. So net paper ndano sisiya mombe kuma grazing lanes. Ndo ndadzoka growth kwenu mbotsaka zvemabasa zvekuvaka. Fika pandakazowana basa namely Chinese construction company, and then I had to come up with a skill for to but suppose it was difficult and child bus. I was not on it. So I know akumba the shake on here. ndatopuwa mari yebhasi atondinzura tsitsi zvese ndichinobva nditengerwa negumbezi and ndobva ndaenda and then I didn't go anywhere vandanogara mugrowth point ndakuenda kubasa saka ndakazoonekwa manje ndobva shoko rasvika kumba aiwa
kubasa kwakuri
it was outskirts of the growth point kumavillage.
What were you doing?
I was looking after kettles.
Okay.
Asi apa basa nandaona muconstruction
right.
in a Chinese company yaivaka because I was staying in a place inonzi Masunga saka there's my villages vanavhukwi mulamba-kwena which were surrounding Masunga village. So I was now staying in Masunga, which is more like a growth point of the whole northeast. So it's the center of the whole northeast. So shoko rakanosvika kuti aiwa hana kuenda kurufu munhu yaari ku then kana wakangokura usina chitsotsi zvakaramba zvindidya to some point when it was weekend singashandi ndakaenda ndikanotarisana namudhara namoms vandaishandira ndikati aiwa ndakawana basa reconstruction but vakazvinzwisisa kati no it's okay. So we maintained that kana iri weekend ndaenda ndokwakumba ndakuinda tichinoonana ndichidzokera kubasa tichinoonana tichidzokera kubasa. And when I worked for them pane vana vanga vari grade 3 negrade 4 pandakazobva muBotswana, those guys they grew up, finished school, and somewhere they worked for me, they come to work for me because ndakazoregister company, they come and work for me. So now what happened pandakazoenda kuconstruction, that's when I worked to an extent. You know, if you look at my hands ndichine mhoni dzakabuda back then, and I think nothing will change. Maoko angu achatogara akadaro. You know, because I was very determined to register my company and to develop a construction company. There are a lot of requirements that were needed, so I had to work. I've got a complete year, I think, between 2004 to 2005. Was the last company in 2005? Between 2004 and 2005, you know, I worked to an extent I was no longer feeling pain. There was a kind of 12 bags of cement, which kind of team. Only one. Naili ndikapoka na mapizo kuti chera foundation. I would dig a foundation not kana vanhu vari 4-5 vangatora some days. I would do it in a short period of time. So I get a gomba toilet. Gomba chero blade toilet. Kana ma septic tank ne ma blade toilet. And I chira gomba toilet within a day. So this is a story I always share with people. Funny sometimes. This guy knows Mr. Toveza. He follows me on Facebook. And he's always talk about those events. So Mr. Toveza vakandipa a piece of very vakaimba. So ndakapuwa piece of kuchera foundation. So I was busy excavating. Ndiri one. Must change manje angati kure ana ndafamba da almost tonopedza. Saka pakaita what do you call it? Pakaita time yekuti masoja vanga vari vanomati machini rukamwa stara ndingashandisa zvokuti vari kungobata maforeigners and operation zvotobata maforeigners undocumented foreigners. Saka mota yakamira ndakuiona. I was busy working. Saka ndakazongoona vanhu vatosvika. You know, one thing they did, those guys, havana kundibvunza passport, havana kundibvunza working permit. Chekutanga vakati uri kushanda nani, vaona pane shavhi 1 nepick 1. Zvanzi ndiwachera pese here apa? Ndikati yes. Zvanzi dziri kupi mbanje? Zvanzi hakuna munhu anoshanda ari sober. So of course they did their own examine and check. Vakaona kuti sure munhu ari sober. They actually commended me to say, I know, keep on working, ruta basa rakanaka. But havana kutombobvunza kana mapassport kana chii. I was like, wow. And that is the time when I was now staying in the country without passport. Was the pipe kuti waiti kugara waipuwa 90 days. Kana 90 days dzapera zvonzi chiuya again next year. Saka paipera ma 90 days kudai taingozoenda unechi nebhodha jamba. And havana kundibvunza. Mwari varipo. So there are a lot of cities that happened. And kusenza in a foreign land kwairwadzira kuti, you know, being a vanoti mukwerekwere or a foreigner, you know, you were a second-hand citizen. Unengori citizen isina basa. Vana vadiki vanokwanisa kungokutuka kana kushandisa some of the words zokuti you swallow ngoti ndozviripo. Saka, you know, we get used to that kind of life. Kutarisirwa pasi, kunyombewa, kuti unongoita sosina kuzvinzwa, urambochita zvaunenge uchiita. So, you know, there's time when I worked zokuti I could know my body was numb. Unozoti raina mukasakura unombosimuka kauchikoto tasana musana. But it was now a time kuti munhu wangoti kana wakutanga kuformation, that's it. Unochesa manheru wapedza. And not having proper food. Taitenga sweeted nemagwinya. That was most of our food. So taitenga sweeted kune magwinya weisapa. Then you eat. Saka ndo life yatakaita. But my aim was to raise money. I knew what I wanted. So I don't raise money. I wanted to register a company. And I knew what was required for me to do what I want. Saka ndo mafambira ndakaita. So I register my first company in Botswana.
All right. We are going to take another break. Then we'll talk about how you registered the company and how much did you have at that time. Okay. So don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back. I don't know why I'm tempted to say doctor, but anyway, you have to accept it.
It's okay.
Mr. Marambire, now let's talk about how you registered your company. From the research that I did, you had no money.
Yes.
Or you had few dollars. So how did you register it?
Actually, what happened, I can't be to a mistake like anyone else. Because I would
how many mistakes?
I got one of my mistakes along the way, but this one I want to speak about it because it's significant. But my mistakes my mistakes along the way. I would not want to present as if everything was perfect. There's a lot of mistakes that happened, of which sometime maybe we'll come and discuss those mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
But the mistakes that I did in 2005, I worked so hard and raised some money. And after raising some money, like any other young guy, Mario Young Yaukanotenga Mont. So ndakaenda kuna pastor ndapinda Baptist church ndaenda kuna pastor ndikati ndoda kutenga mota vakanipa advice kuti udai wanga wambomira but kwaiva mutapaniko
sure.
aungodzi munhu aura atenga mota kuti chimbomira. So I went on and buy a car yanga nemafodzi ndakatenga ka Ford for the first time. So look at it kuti isusu not long ago I couldn't afford a plate of food anditika I could afford chikafu chandaitokumbira kuti pamapiwa chepasi chechi. And then later looking after ketos to wemombe. And then look how the events unfold. I think by then I was around 23. I bought my first car 23 years.
First car?
Yes. So what happened when the money was enough, is it didn't register company? I cannot take a
No, let me cut you there. Let's go back to how you started it. You started with how many employees? How much did you have at that time? And what was the process like?
No, this is before I started my company.
Before you had the car?
What happened from looking after Kate was like, I get down into my piece of remember. The send my company. I think it was about 15,000 pula. That was a good amount. And how I raised this money, what I did, I had bid Sakatakan drag a secret box where I could drop the money. So I believed with at night I'm sleeping on top of the bed, which is with my secret safe in my so it's safe that I'm sleeping with my money. Unless if someone would steal the whole entire bed during the day. So that's how I saved the money until it was enough, and I bought my first car. So ndatenga mota time yekundichita business, I think it was ready ndandato register business but sandatanga cooperate. Pandakada uzonoperate manje ndane mota ndina mari. And I think I did some plus or minus 1,500. That is almost about $150. So now what I did, I choose to start with brick production. Even though I opened a construction, but Mario Yanga is Singapore, and kuti nditsvake basa ndasina any reference kwandakambovaka. Saka ndakatora mari ya150 ndokutenga cement, ndokutenga mariva seed, ndobva ndatenga from emaoko. Ndakatanga ne1 from anonzi ma4.5 ndo mablocks ari common. Saka ndakaforoma mabricks angu almost 10 bags. And then a big range about 35 bricks. Saka then about the stock 850. Ndaisa mabricks per side. Ndakagara patakanyira mabricks waiting for clients. I think the first week yakaenda da viki yapera ini mari ndanayosendaisa kubusiness ka saka even kutotenga food kumba manje zvakuchinetsa. So what I did, ndakaona handingasweri ndakagara pane tape and yard yanga tikuru. Saka ndakatanga kurima maveg. Ndakanotora maseedlings eko kuna past for free. Manda ndikaita mabeds avo. Saka ino time ndakaenda almost close to a month ndisati ndambotengesa. Zvaita ndizvoti customer yauya yoti no tikuda another type of bricks that I don't have. Imwe client uya yoti tikuda 1000. Indongori ne 350 mustock. Until my first customer, she was a nurse. She came and said, okay, ntoda mabricks. Ndine 350. Ntoda about 900 bricks. Get right. What we can do, pay, then we deliver what we have. Then after a certain time, we also talk. Saka akabhadhara full amount. Ndobvatora mabricks yandogenda. Mari yachona yese yakaenda ku-cement and sand. Chibva taforoma mabricks. I think payment yake yakaita yakwanisa kuzotipa almost more than 1,500 bricks. Saka stock yedu yakabva yakwira from there kuti kana tikatengesa totora mari totenga cement and sand tichiproduce, but I was the one doing the work. So
which one means the company was with one employee, which was you. You was the employee and the boss.
Yes, it was me, and I asked one guy from church. This guy is now quite rich also. He's there in Botswana, and Tumelo. So I recruited one guy from church. Angachangopedza kunyora form 3. And saka tainoshanda tiri too. We always hear about these stories because he's now running a company yakita zvamagetsi. So how it grows, I would do more bricks, keep a stock, sell more bricks, and increase the stock. But the issue of vegetables, why I mentioned, yakabva yanondibatsira because situation yacho yanga iri tense, ndasingakwanisi kujika mari kumabrick sales. If I would dare touch that money, the business will not grow. So mavheji aya akazokura. Samadzimai pamusika aitengesa pamusika aya kuzoda mavheji. Saka ndaitozwa kuti at a given time cover itanokura. After 5 days or after a few days, I'm selling. Saka mari yangu yazoshanda manje kuti ndoyashanda kumba. It's something that I thought of, and I think many people can apply it in their business. Kana uchiri kutanga zvezvi. Because my business mazhinji anobroka. Have you ever seen a situation kuti unenge mari yako rena ndoti pamwe waita zvawaitaona wana 1000 uchiri kutanga business, but if you come 3 weeks after watanga business tokwasanova ne 800 kana 6, and then the question ndosaka imwe 200 kana 400 yaenda ku, you lose money in the process. We call it working capital. To do business you spend money. So in most of the time vanhu kana vachiisa markup on profit per business, they don't incorporate that. You phone, you travel, you eat, those small things panonopera mwedzi inenge yatova almost a good significant figure. Saka in my case I think, look, no one taught me this. Kwai kungofunga trial and error, but it worked. Ndine mavheji paside andikutengesa apa ndichiita mabricks angu. Mavheji yangoti mvura iripo ready, saka tongodiridzira ipapa. So that's how I grow the business. And tinoda kutotanga kutowana ma-clients. One thing chakatonyanya kuwana ma-clients business ikure very fast. Issue honest. Very honest and trustful. You know, I learned how to convince people and deliver what I promise. Saka ndakatanga ma-referrals. To an extent, we built the house for the judge. For a certain guy was a judge, whom we are still even in talks right now. Even he retired. We built the house. The guy Angari MP for Northeast. But then he was Minister of Water and Energy.
Okay, let me cut to the due to our time. Yes. Let's talk about because most of us, we want to operate business first before we registered it. And yes, the registration is very expensive, considering that you are starting without from down there without anything, without money.
Yes.
So where did you get the cards to start to register a business first before you start operating?
I think it's only that because I was in a foreign land. But right now, with the experience that I got and the open up that I see how things works, I would not bother to encourage someone to register first. I would rather say operate and regularize as you are operating. Because this issue of wanting to stay at home and start registering a company before you do anything, we have got a lot of companies which were registered and never operated, but marine get to end. So I come now to understand the best way. Start whatever that you want to start, then you regularize while you're in the process of running. They will tell you what is required. Right now, when I'm ndikadakuvhura kana choroteka, when ndikatanga kubika sadza, vemutema vangu vachindisunga. Chekutanga unoya kuti toda license chakati. Pamwe usingatombozivi kuti what is required nditenge kubika sadza izvozvo. Toda license maybe from health, vashanda kwari. Saka we are now starting to know this is already again to know this. In most cases, they give you time to regularize and comply. It's not the method of chiefara when they comply. Uganda was over in most cases. When you go several warnings and several fines, and you are not complying. So I don't think it's a matter of registering a company and then start to operate. In my case, I think I was pushed because I was in a foreign land, and being a foreigner and then operate illegally, now mounting my products for yourself.
Or let me just explain to us in a brief, just brief us about the importance of registering a business. Because most of us, from my experiences, I've noticed that from the companies, registered companies that I worked with, to buy even this bottle of water, maybe you sit in 5 meetings just to discuss this thing. And so I was thinking that if registering a company requires all this administration, why should I do it? Because if I just want to buy it, I'll just take my money, go and buy it. I will bring it to Twitter bus. But in countless meetings and other stuff.
No, there is something that people should understand. There's hustling. And there's corporate world. Advantage of registering a company, you can grow that into a very big institution which is bigger than yourself. Because now if you want to operate solely as a person, you say in opening remarks to say if it is a registered company with the corporate governance, to buy a bottle of water, you need several meetings and adjustment. It's not a waste of time. Because most of the time what you do, you sit in budget and work aligned with the budget, work with company policies, and then policies are created within a company so that it can guide. We should not do things based on who is affected for a company to operate fairly and for a company to grow. So I would say registered companies remain a key issue, because by so doing, one, you separate yourself from the operations. You open bank accounts for the company, because if you don't have a company, you cannot open any bank account except in your name. And conditions of how a company account operates and the personal account operates is totally different. Under normal circumstances, there are limitations of withdrawals, transfers, and all that. That's number one. Number two, you don't do business alone. You do business with others. And others, according to the law of the country, you're required to be registered to obtain certain papers like tax clearance, trading license, and all that.
All right, let's talk about how you manage to build the systems in your businesses and the mama builder kwenguva yakareba sematango operate. But also now Barmlo inenge depend on your own.
Back then when I was in Botswana, as I was starting, it's very crucial because that's where we started. And we came in Zimbabwe in 2011. Now I was a bit wiser. It's a try and error. That's why it is very important to have a mentor. Unfortunately, with the blacks, one thing that kills us is competition. If you would say you want me to be your mentor, sometimes I don't give you full information. Sometimes I lead you to fail. But if you can get a very honest mentor, like in my position so far, mentoring quite a lot of guys who are into construction, the same industry that I am in other sectors. So mentorship is very important because at least you are guided. In my case, it was try and error. I never had a mentor. So what would happen is you employ people. Then at the end of the month, you find out that their salary is quite bigger than the production that we've done. Sakatoita say, within a limit, and started to say, we are now paying per bag. It's a policy. Saka policy organization, I think that was our first policy to say, Sagasugata per bag. Then after that, sometimes maybe how you bus. Then you put a policy with kana monariga kubasa that they are better. So policy they are built as you progress. And the police mainly they are there to mitigate my challenge. Saka you find out from one company to another, my policies are depending on the nature of the business. Saka mainly I believe they are general, operations policy, which are maybe stipulated by in the Labor Law Act and the other statutory instruments anobatsira pakugavhena employment and
All right, let me cut it there. Due to our time, I think we'll need a part two discussing this conversation, and I believe it will impact someone out there. Now, there's someone who is an orphan who don't know where to start. What do you have to say about them? What should they do?
The first thing I would say, Shamari, you put your hands. Your hands is the first tool. Use them. Go and work. And the second, I would say, don't play victim. The world doesn't owe you anything. And no one will come to your rescue unless you stand up and start working. Number three, I would say, invest in learning and then maybe earning later. Because if you don't have anywhere to start, you have to learn from other people. But if you're intelligent enough, start working. And then number four, I would say, blaming others will never solve your problem. And life on its own is unfair. There's no way you would want to blame either the world or parents. You have to learn to stand on your own and then start working.
They will push back saying, we have high unemployment rate. I can't find work. If I go to the industry to look for an opportunity to work, they won't pay me. What should I do?
Honestly, life is good. Life doesn't have one formula. There are so many ways how we can live. I shared my experience, how I did it. So I think to someone who is so interested, something, can take from these lessons and then write your own story. Because the issue, of course, it's not everyone who is born to be an entrepreneur. We cannot be all business people. But the fact that Banabas doesn't overcome or doesn't make you poor. Because we are not necessarily saying everyone should register a company. You can work as a sole trader, buying and selling. You can work. Right now, it's why because construction is hard. I told you in the name one that I took 2002. The Singapore Maukatungori had forever. You cannot tell that to someone of this generation. So I think maybe young one you on the drawing table, guys. It's not about other people, and then it's not about basari soft.
All right. Now, with all the knowledge that you gave, with what you know now, what do you think about our education system? Do you think it's the only way go to write your O level, A level, go to university, attain your degree, you look for employment or start your venture, whatever it is? Is education really important in this modern era?
I always say if I had the power, I would change totally everything about our curriculum, about how the way how we are taught.
Now let's talk about the things that you will change. Just give us three major things that you say, no, I will change this in our education system.
I will focus on production. I will focus on agriculture. I will focus on mining. We cannot have people come from Yemen to teach us mining. We cannot be taught about the digestive system or parts of a grasshopper when we don't know how to mine the minerals in our country. We cannot import finished goods when we got the raw materials from the ground that we can produce the goods that we use and consume. So I would focus on the education should focus on production, agriculture, and mining. Then maybe the rest would then supplement.
All right. There are many people who don't. Well, let me ask you this: do you believe in finding purpose in following your passion?
Finding purpose. I don't know. Finding purpose.
All right. I'm talking to people. You see, some they say, I'm doing this because I find purpose in doing this. I like what you are doing. Yes. Your story gives you a purpose to educate us that it's possible to do this. Yes. That's your purpose.
Yes.
Right. So do you believe in finding purpose? Because most of people, even the adults, they don't know what inside them. They don't know their purpose. And it's difficult for other people. And do you believe in those
purpose things? Is driven from passion. The things that you want to do more often, that's your purpose.
Or it's driven from passion. So
it's driven from passion.
Yeah. Let's go back to my question. Do you believe in following your passion? Or you say, no.
Fighting your passion is like fighting yourself. So you cannot contradict yourself. What you like is what you do. The advantage of doing what you like, whether there's money or there's no money, you still have the energy to pursue it.
To do it.
Yes, but if you do things for money, then without money you quit. Yes.
All right, let's talk about now I want you to listen carefully. This advice is coming from a millionaire. What criteria should be used to choose professions? To say
That one is quite broad. It's quite broad in the sense that, when you choose a career, you choose something that is marketable. Like in the digital era we are now, you cannot be found doing something that has nothing to do with the technology. The market, you can have passion in a certain job that honestly will make you suffer to get employment. So there are a lot of elements that one should consider. That's why I always encourage that it's important to have career guidance, especially for students from grade 7, so that when they go to secondary, they know what to do. My son obtained a certificate in introduction to aviation when he was in primary before he wrote grade 7, which shaped him to decide now, even though he's still in between, to choose either pilot, engineering, or doctor. But he is now somewhere aligned to something. Unfortunately, we have our kids learning from grade 1 to grade 7, nothing. Form 1 to Form 4, nothing. Form 5 to Form 6, nothing. Then when someone is going to university, that's when we are now saying, which course are you going to start? And most of the students, they don't select. They'll take what is available.
You will be given, not
Or
to
given.
take. They will be given. You will be given.
So that concept, we are killing our generation. That's why you find out that in Africa, I don't know if I may say this, you go on TikTok, unaona a well-grown up man trending nekuridza usho, trending nekutamba marecords. While east wenda ku Europe, wenda kunana other developed countries, same people are spending energy in inventing maybe equipment to use for medicines, maybe right now talking of what is happening around the world, the war, creating, developing radar, explosive and all that. But now, our African, particularly I would say Zimbabwe youth, I don't know how we managed to be tamed our mind and focus on something that is actually useless. I looked at a video when a very well grown up actually everyone so unless we move from that mindset, I think Africa will still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I think it's a go back to colonialism.
I
think there's much work which is needed to be done in terms of decolonizing our mindset and our institutions as
Unfortunately, people are resisting to that. When I came on, there's a time I was so active on Facebook. After I look at my life and when I felt I was better, I clocked a 6-figure when I was about 32 years. And then I was like, yeah. And newspapers started writing about me as way back as 2012, being recognized. And I also admitted that I was better now. Then I started teaching other people. I came on social media specifically to teach practical ways, using my example, how I did it. But ndakatukwa on social media, angari my insults after insults. Saka ndakazozwa that then what exactly am I doing? Why am I pushing this?
I've noticed that our social media is very toxic. And if you do something which is productive, which is educational,
nobody cares.
No one cares.
Nobody
A
cares.
few people. Because now, if I look at my statistics, people watching me this show, they are 35 and above. There's no young people here.
So you see, our generation, we need to do a lot. I don't know what the mindset even this time around the say. Muna not trained for cheating on his wife, but trained and exert. Mama, unfortunately, the cameras they can end up who use that person for advertising. There's a lady at View One, I can't train that.
Exactly.
And then in December we build a house for someone who is underprivileged. And we got scrutinized, shouted and mocked for that. Saka uchazozima distribution. Saka should I do View One? Kuti vanhu vandi accept in society, or should I do something meaningful like assist the poor, teaching people how to start a business? So we are honestly where we are going. Sometimes you do not know what it's not
But you mentioned careers such as doctor, aviation, engineering, and all those professions which are considered high paying.
Yes.
And you didn't talk anything which is related to arts, because as of me, I think I'm very passionate about the art sector, simply because most of people, let me say most of people of your generation,
Yes.
yeah, you overlook the role of arts or the creative business of things. So, and it happens that you happen to manage a talent recently.
Yes.
Yeah. So we want to understand from your own perspective, what do you think about that sector? If your son you wake up saying, no, Dad, I want to be a streamer, I just want to be a YouTuber, just like what Aisha Speed was doing, will you agree in that, or is saying, Did I want to be an actor?
I will support. I'm someone who understands art, digital world, and digital platforms, how the art is being sold, and how people are generating money on social media, on digital platforms. So we would not, in my position, I would not discourage my son to go into art industry, showcasing what he can. The only thing now is um, most of the selling art, it's nudity than dignify the art. It will be up to them to balance. I should speed managed to do it. His art and uh, context, it's dignified and he's making it. But you find out that most of the time, to make it in digital platforms, you need to bring controversy, nudity, and all that.
What
So
is-
if it can be balanced, I think I would be very happy to see
What
that.
it now? I'm your son. We are having this conversation. Did you said you want me to go to do engineering? I'm not interested in doing that. I want to do music. I'm very passionate about music, and you know that I play instruments and I'm good at singing. Maybe you are not yet convinced, but I can do it. I feel in my heart that I can do it. This is the only thing that fired me up, right? So I want to go to, instead of going to university, I want to,
medicine.
yeah, oh yeah, or to go to university or any college. I want to go to music college
I
and
will-
start my career
I
there.
will support and at least make sure that one, my son has academic knowledge in that industry. Number one. Number two, he's got the all instruments and the resources required for him to carry out that task. So it's not a matter of what I want. I've lived my life the way I lived. It turned out to be where I am because of circumstances. And then I should not then go around imposing what my beliefs on people. I think the best, most of the time I say this, when people come to me for mentorship or advice and they've got their line of businesses, I don't normally discourage them to do their business. I develop conversations to identify how they can make money in that line of their choice. So because there's a difference between uh, coming with an idea and actually making money. Because making money in a business, you need to have a model that will surely have people pay you, you generating income. Because there's a lot of ideas some of the young entrepreneurs or startups come up with, and then you ask, okay, in this setup or what you've come up with, how is it like going to make money? And someone doesn't know. Say, okay, I want to go and the other thing that I noticed, which is contradicting the minds of this generation, they want to come and do charity and then don't know where they're going to make money. Thinking that maybe they'll come to Barmlo and say, Barmlo, I want to go and help with these widows, and then I give you money to help widows.
I think it's how we are programmed, because most of people we are taught that you have to volunteer, you have to offer service so that people will believe in you first, then they will pay later, something which is related to that.
Yeah, it's a very tough situation because you need rent, you need to buy food, you have got to meet your expenses, and then now you are voluntary to do something for free, hoping to go to the business community, and they should give you money to run your dream. Look, most of business people have got their concept, they've got their charity works which they do, which they believe in because of their background and their desires.
All right. Due to our time, I had so many questions that I didn't ask, but we are going to close soon. Then we want you back. When are you coming back?
We have to communicate. Actually, I'm not based in Harare, so I'm always mobile. I think you understand.
Yeah, sure.
It took us
Yeah,
weeks.
but I just wanted to put that we have to do something again.
Maybe we can try something in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, sure. All right. So now, as a tradition, before we have what you call the final five, but before we get into the final five, I want you to look at this camera and read a letter you would write to an 18-year-old Banabas Marambire. Just give us, make it 1 minute or less.
In terms of corrections?
In terms of life, with what you already know. You are now tasked to.
Okay, I would say to a 18-year-old Banabas Marambire, the world owes you nothing. Understand what you want, choose your path, avoid changing directions along the way. At least if you choose something that you believe works, better give it all before you quit. Because quitting is not an option. Also, I would say focus on productive things. To guys, chasing after girls doesn't pay bills. To girls, chasing after men, they'll use you and dump you. So anything that you do, you should come first, and then you should make sure that whatever you plan, it has got an impact in your future life. And I would also say, never allow your current situation defines your future. Always work hard to improve. There's always room for improvement if you are willing. There's a lot of things that I would say, but I think for now, that's my few words.
That's so powerful. Now, as a tradition, we have what you call the final five. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, then you answer them as short as you can. Okay. 1 word or 1 sentence if it is long.
Okay.
Right. So what is the most ridiculous thing you ever done to get a deal closed?
Offer a certain free service. I offered a certain free service in line with the business.
What I doing? I was questioning by okay. All right. My next question is: if you had to swap lives with one of your employees for a day, what will you do to Mr. Banabas to get favors and big deals?
I'll make sure that I'm honest. I'll make sure that I work overtime and I come to work early, and contribute in every meeting that I'm called.
What do I have to say to Banabas Marambire? I'm your employee. I want you to get big deals from you. What do I have to say every time I see you?
Come again?
I say if you had to swap lives
Yes.
with one of your employees,
Yes.
what should he do to secure a big deal from Banabas Marambire, which is you?
Okay.
And
So my answer was correct, right?
Yeah, it was correct. But I want something. What will they have to say, or what will you say if you was your employee to you, so that they will get a big deal?
I would do more action than words. I would do more action than words.
All right. If you had to make one universal law, which one would it be?
Universal law. Reduce tax. Yeah, reduce the tax that people are paying to the government.
What's the best and the worst advice you ever received? Let's start with the best.
Save money. I was told to save money by a certain missionary lady, that you have to save first before you spend.
The worst.
The worst. I would say advised to have so many streams of income in different sectors. I tried and didn't work.
I really wanted to talk about that. I noticed that you have done some ventures into mining and other businesses, and it didn't work out.
Yes.
But unfortunately, due to our time, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your presence. It means a lot to us, our platform, and the people who are watching out there. Thank you so much for coming. Decide to see us in your busy schedule and come to talk to us, to educate us. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Keep on doing what you are doing.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you so much for watching this one. This is Wisdom and Purpose with Ime. See you on our next episode. And do remember to check other episodes on our platform. But for now, we are out.